Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Andrew Musgrove here. Hope you guys are doing well. Please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to the channel as well. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the two main talking points from Ready House press conference that was held on Friday morning ahead of the trip to Stamford Bridge on Sunday to face Chelsea. First, the fact that Alexander Isak is not in talks to extend his deal and what that means for the future of the Swedish international at Newcastle United. And secondly, the inevitable news that Callum Wilson's return to first team action has been delayed. Now, before we get into the episode, just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by NORD VPN, the very best protection out there for all your devices when you're using public Wi-Fi. And we've got a very special offer for you guys that I hope you are going to take up. To get the discount offer, head to nordvpn.com/tune. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All the details are in our podcast description box. I use this day in, day out. I can't recommend it enough. I can't speak highly of it enough. I used it before NordVPN came on board because I wanted that extra protection when I was out and about working, whether it be in the local cafe, whether it be on a bus, a train, wherever, traveling across you, watching Newcastle United as we did last season. NordVPN just helps me sleep that little bit easier at night, knowing my passwords, my financial details are all safe and secure. You can use it across multiple devices, and it also is very cost effective. It only costs about the same price as a premium cup of coffee every single month. So it's well worth your time and effort just to sign up. Really easy to sign up, a few clicks and you're all done and dusted. Can't recommend it enough. nordvpn.com/tune. All the details in the podcast description box. Right, Mr. Alexander Isak. You've probably heard the news by now. He's not in talks to extend his deal. There were whispers that he was. I was under the impression that he would have been next after Anthony Gordon to sign a new deal, but as reported by the Daily Mail last night and then confirmed by Howe in his press conference on Friday, that's not the case. Now, there's been various takes on this news. Some people have lost their heads slightly, which they see this news meaning Alexander Isak's going to go in the summer. Others, a little bit more relaxed when it comes to their opinion on this story. I'm of the opinion that there's no need to panic. Just breathe. Just take it easy. First off, players will come, players will go. That's just football. But specifically Alexander Isak, he's got 4 years to run on his deal. Contract doesn't expire till 2028. So Newcastle United are in a real strong position. It's not like time is running out for them. It's not like they're going to find themselves in a position where a buyer can come in and try and get a cut price deal. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter if you're Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, whoever. You are not going to get Alexander Isak on the cheap. It's going to cost you the best part of 150 million, in my opinion, to get him away from Newcastle United. And that is the strong hand that Newcastle United have to play. And that is a really good position to be in. You've got the fact that Alexander Isak isn't pushing to leave. He's not going to be disruptive influence in the dressing room. He's just going to knuckle down and get on with it, which is really good news. But I do think if even if he knocked on the door and said it's time for me to go, Gaffer, I want to leave, Newcastle United could still turn around and will still turn around and say, that's fine, but it's going to cost someone at least £150 million. And some will say, are you crazy? £150 million? Do you really think he's worth that? He is worth that, without a shadow of a doubt. He's second only to Erling Haaland, in my view, in terms of a goal scorer in the Premier League. His all-round gameplay is better than Erling Haaland. He's 25 years of age. He's got his best years ahead of him. He's only going to get better. 36 goals in 74 games for Newcastle since joining in August 2022, and he's missed a fair few games through injury, and that means that tally really is even better and should be more if it wasn't for his injuries. But look, he is worth at least 150 million in my book, and I think if you're a top team in Arsenal or Chelsea and you want him, you have to pay the big bucks. It's as simple as that. And the fact he's got so long to run on his deal means Newcastle United can ask for that, can demand that, and don't have to worry about getting done in a cut price deal. And the other thing that kind of works in their favour as well is that I genuinely believe that Alexander Isak could be the final piece of the jigsaw for Arsenal to win the Premier League title. And that means Newcastle's hand is even stronger, because if that is the case, if they also think that's the case, they can go, fair enough. If he's the man to win you the title and you've got to pay the money to get him to your club, and then it's up to Arsenal to decide whether he's worth £150 million. But I think if you look around the market in recent years and see what other players have gone for, then I think £150 million is at the very least what Newcastle United can be asking for Alexander Isak, and at the very least what they can be expecting for him. Hopefully, though, Newcastle United, don't lose him at all. We don't want to see him go, because he's such a good player. He's the finest goal scorer we've seen in black and white since Alan Shearer. He's just unbelievable. Newcastle United are a much worse side without him. They were much worse side when he's not on form, as we saw against Brighton. He should have had 2-3 goals, and he just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But he would usually put those efforts in the back of the net without even thinking about it. He's that good. And look, he started the season really slowly, but I think once he gets a little bit fitter, once he gets more minutes under his belt, you will start to see him hit the goals again. And I think he won't quite reach 25 goals like he did last season, but I think he'll get somewhere near 20. I think we'll see him easily into double figures by the time the season ends. And look, I think Newcastle United are going to be relatively calm about this. They are in a difficult position when it comes to PSR, so they can't just give him a massive pay rise. I mean, he's already one of the top earners, but they can't break that ceiling because of the effect it will have later on. So they've got to be really careful with that. That's probably the one downside of this. If Arsenal or Chelsea do come in and they offer Alexander Isak double the wages, Newcastle United can't compete with that. That's just a sad reality of where the PSR rules have left Newcastle United. They can't compete with the top clubs when it comes to doubling their stars' wages. So they have to be prepared for that. But as I said right at the start of the show, top players will go and top players will come. And I think it's really interesting to see the reaction to this news that he's not in talks at the moment for a new deal. Newcastle United and Newcastle United fans, and I include myself in that, we're going to have to prepare for an exit of someone that we don't want to lose. One of those key players, one of those core players, because that's just what's going to have to happen at some point over the next 18 months. I think you're going to see a big name go, and there will be an initial outcry. But as long as it's reinvested properly, like Aston Villa have done, like West Ham did when they sold Declan Rice, then the long-term effects will be a benefit to Newcastle United. And those clubs have shown that you can sell your big players, your best players, reinvest, improve the squad, and move on from your best player. So I think we have to be prepared for that, whether it would be Alexander Isak, whether it be Bruno Guimaraes, and whether it be the summer to come or the summer after, I'm not too sure. But most certainly, whether Newcastle United get European football is going to affect that. And the story last night in the Mail was all about how Alexander Isak has those Champions League aspirations, those ambitions to play in the Champions League. And that's fine, because as a fan base and as a club and as an ownership and as a manager, we all want to see Newcastle United back in the Champions League. It probably is a little reminder to just how important this season is. It hasn't quite gone to plan at this moment in time, but there's a lot of football to be played. Will Newcastle United be in and around the question for the top four? I thought they would have been. I would have certainly thought they would have been had they signed a couple of players in the summer. They didn't. I think that set them back. They've probably still got a core a bunch of players that should have them, you would think, within the conversation for the top six. Top four, I think they'll need a little bit of luck. I think they'll need to stay injury free, and they'll need other teams around them to have a bad run of form. But, if everyone's on the same hymn sheet, if everyone's pulling the same direction, and if their luck's in, there's no reason why they can't mount a challenge for the top four. Right now, it looks a little unlikely, and it's all about how that affects the mindset of these players in the summer. How big is their desire to play in the Champions League? Will they stay another year at Newcastle United if they've got Europa Conference League, or they've got the Europa League, or heaven forbid they haven't got any football, European football? It's a question that only they can answer. I certainly hope Newcastle United are not in the position where they haven't got any European football for the season after this one, because that would not be a very good season at all if that was the case. But fingers crossed, Newcastle United can get back in the top four. As I say, it's more hope than expectation, but you would expect them to at least get into that Europa Conference League spot. That's what I'm hoping for at the very least. And will that be enough to satisfy the likes of Bruno, the likes of Alexander Isak, who want European football? I guess we'll only know next summer. But yeah, don't panic about Alexander Isak. Newcastle United in a very strong position. And I actually think Eddie Howe was very clever in his press conference today, because the message he put out was kind of, don't get too complacent. You might be first choice now. You might be one of Newcastle's best players, but you're really only as good as your last game. There's always room to improve. He said, we need to be delivering our part as a football club for them and their ambition, but also the player has to perform to that level. If he's saying he has huge ambitions, he has to be actually doing the business on the pitch. It's a two-way thing. The challenge is always thrown back. Ambition is crucial. We have to have that perception of achievement and growing as a club, not just to keep the so-called big names happy, but everyone happy. We have a big job to keep that momentum positive and the dream big. We have to deliver on the pitch. And the line that stands out there is, he has to actually be doing the business on the pitch. It's a two-way thing. And without any disrespect to Alexander Isak, I think it's fair to say he hasn't been doing it on the pitch. Yes, he's missed the last few games through injury, but prior to that, he'd only scored one goal and hasn't quite looked himself. Full confidence that over the next few weeks we will see him back to his best. That is definitely a challenge thrown down, not just Alexander Isak, but anyone else that's going to start maneuvering for a new deal. You've got to earn it. Anthony Gordon did earn it last season. The situation is vastly different, though. Anthony Gordon's contract was up in the summer of 2026. So really, you were coming into a period of time where you didn't want to leave yourself open to maybe a cut price deal for Anthony Gordon, or in the summer, again, someone in his ear, you get a January of 2025 and nothing's been done. And then all of a sudden, clubs are free to talk to him. So slightly different. I do think it is a reward, though, for his last season, 11 goals. He was superb. I think he's Newcastle United's best player when he's played out on the left, when everything's working in his favour. I think there's no one better in that squad than Anthony Gordon. And I think the fact that he's been rewarded for his hard work, I think sends a good message out to the likes of Alexander Isak. And it just reminds them, look, if you continue to work hard, if you continue to perform well, then you will get your reward of a new deal when the time comes around. So, yeah, look, let me know in the comments what you think. How much is Alexander Isak worth? Are you comfortable with the situation Newcastle United find themselves in? I certainly am. I'm not pressing the panic button just yet. Let's give it a year or so. Let's see where Newcastle United are at the end of the season, and then we will maybe have to reevaluate things. But right now, right here, no need to panic. And Alexander Isak's going to get on the score sheet against Chelsea as well. And goodness knows, he's probably the only man that up front well, he is the only man up front who possibly could do so, because Newcastle United haven't got Callum Wilson. I did a video the other day where I named 5 positives, 5 reasons to be positive about Newcastle United. And one of them was the return of Callum Wilson. And I'd also mentioned earlier in the week that I didn't really want to talk about him because I felt he was going to break my heart again by coming back, playing a couple of games, and then getting injured. As it turns out, he's not coming back, and he's not ready to come back, and he's going to miss the next 3 games. And Eddie Howe said he's not got a new injury as such. He's just not ready to come back. And he just left kind of so frustrated, disappointed, because Newcastle United, they need Callum Wilson. Like, he's such a good attacking player, such a good striker, carries the number 9 shirt really well, scores goals when he's fit. But goodness me, how many games has he missed at Newcastle United? And it's getting now to the stage where we're actually, I say I'm frustrated and angry. It's kind of apathy. You kind of shrug and go, yeah, am I shocked? Not really. Am I surprised? Not at all. No. When you read the story last night about his fitness, there wasn't really a shock in it. You kind of think, yeah, if I was a betting man, I might put a few bob on that. It's Callum Wilson. We've come to expect this from him. The only frustration is that you just can't find a run of games to play in. And that is a detriment to Newcastle United. And that is impacting Alexander Isak. That is impacting Newcastle United. And that's a horrible position for Newcastle United being. They should not be in this position. Attention turns to January. How do Newcastle United deal with it? They need a right winger. Do they bring someone in who can also play up top better than Anthony Gordon? Obviously, Anthony Gordon can go from the left up to up front if called upon, but doesn't look quite at home there. Can they find someone to do that better should they be called upon? Or do they split the budget, go after someone on the right, and then also go after a second striker and do their best to move Callum Wilson on? I mean, who's going to buy Callum Wilson? That's the dilemma Newcastle United find themselves in. Because the first question someone will ask Newcastle United, not that they'll need to ask Newcastle United this, but they will, why are you selling them? Oh, because he's not fit. Oh, okay, so you want me to pay £12 million for him? Yes, please. Not happening. Goodbye. What sales pitch do you give to a potential buyer for Callum Wilson? It's a really difficult sales pitch because you just can't rely on his fitness. I think Newcastle are in a really difficult position to move Callum Wilson on. To be quite honest with you, I can't see him going in January. I think Newcastle United will end up just releasing him on a free. I think that's the position they'll find themselves in the summer when his contract is up. And it's a real shame, because his legacy, if one for a better phrase, is being affected now. We should be talking about Callum Wilson being one of the best strikers we've seen in black and white. And he is, a fit Callum Wilson is up there with, obviously he's not on the level of Alan Shearer or Les Ferdinand, but he's that next level down. And we should be talking about him scoring 100 goals for Newcastle United, but it's just never going to happen because of the injuries. And you just kind of, I'm kind of done talking about him, to be quite honest with you, because he's going to be back before the international break. Probably not. When he comes back, the first time he goes down, we'll just be thinking, oh my God, is that him injured? First time he sprints after the ball, is that him injured? It is what it is. Callum Wilson, you just can't rely on him, unfortunately. And I can't see Newcastle United managing to shift him out in January, which leaves them in a really awful position, to be quite honest. And the need to sign a second striker, someone capable of really pushing Alexander Isak. Now, William Masula is not the answer. Anthony Gordon's not the answer. They need to go out and find someone who can really push Alexander Isak week in, week out. Right. Chelsea, Newcastle. Let me know your score predictions. I'm going to go for a win for Newcastle, 2-1. Feeling confident. Gordon Isak on the score sheet at Stamford Bridge. Newcastle to put to bed what is a horrible record of Chelsea, to put to bed what is a horrible record right now in the capital. I think they've only won one in the last 8, something like that. Dreadful. But these kind of statistics are there to be rewritten. And on Sunday, they're going to pick up the victory. They're going to get the win, go into the game on Wednesday against Chelsea in the League Cup, hopefully progress there and set themselves up nicely for the visit of Arsenal next Saturday. Have to do it without Callum Wilson, annoyingly, frustratingly, not surprising though. However, Alexander Isak, more minutes under his belt. Hopefully he can get on the score sheet. I'm tipping him to. Anthony Gordon celebrating his new deal with a goal as well, in my view. Fingers crossed that all happens. Hit subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Click that link for your NORD VPN subscription. I've been Andrew Musgrove, and I'll see you guys very soon.